All right, so again, lesson 15 here is on solving and graphing um, inequalities. So we're gonna just do some example problems to hopefully help you out. The cost of renting a car is $25 per day plus a one-time fee of $75.50. How many days can the car be rented if the total cost is to be no more than 525? All right, so if we're writing a linear model, we're paying $25 per day. That means I'm going to multiply by the number of days. So I'm going to write 25 times D plus our one-time fee of $75.50. And then we have, it can be no more than 525. So no more than 525 is the max. That means it has to be less than. But if it can be no more than, it could also be equal to. Now, hopefully at this point, we've kind of starting to get a feel for what comes next. It becomes natural. We're solving for D, so I'm going to solve for my D term, which means I'm going to get rid of my 7550. It's plus, so I do the inverse, I minus. Or if it's positive, I do the opposite, and I combine it with a negative. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. Hopefully you guys, well, you probably do get too sick of me hearing me say that. All right, I double check to make sure they're opposites. I bring down my sign, and I just do this calculation here, and it ends up being $449.50, or 449.50. Now I undo the multiplication with division. Divide by whatever that coefficient is. Whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. And we get D and 1798. Okay, now notice I paused there. I was going to say bring down my sign, but we ask ourselves one more question. Did I multiply or divide by a negative number? No. It's a yes or no question. It's not, I'm not asking if you multiply or divide. Yes or no question. Did I multiply or divide by a negative? No. So our sign is preserved. Okay? Now, it's a directions you say solve and graph, so don't stress too much about the graphing part. And I really need to pause right here before I jump to that. Okay, let's think about this. We're talking D is the number of days. Does it make sense for us to have 17.98 days? No. Okay. So I'm going to work on the graphing from this, and then we'll interpret it down here. Okay? Let's come back to that. Okay? Well, actually, let's not. Sorry, I'm going to jump around here. This is going to round to either 17 or 18. Okay? We don't have 0.98 of a day. So if I pull out my calculator here, there we go. Okay? Hopefully you guys can kind of see it. Okay, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 17 in for D right here. Okay, clear it out here. So I'm going to go 25 times 17 plus 7550. And I get 500.50, so 550. That is less than or equal to 525. So 17 works. Now let's try 18. So if I go, and I'm just inputting things here for D, 25 times 18 plus 7550, I get $525.50. That 50 cents might not be a big deal, but we don't get to make that choice. Okay, 18 is going to be over 525. That's why we actually write this as D has to be less than or equal to 17 days. Okay, and if we interpret that down here, we can say in the cost of this problem, how many days can the car be rented? The car can be rented for 17 full days. Okay, not 18. 18 is going to put us too much. Okay, so that's kind of the trick, and I know we've dealt with that a little bit. Okay, sorry I changed my mind so much too. Let's make the graphing part easy. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Remember, we put a circle on the 17. Open or closed? Well, since it can be equal to, we fill it in. And we draw our arrow talking about all the days that are less than 17. So that means to the left. Okay? So this is a little bit new type of stuff. We've been working on this, but hopefully the rest of it is starting to click. And if it's not, that's okay. Keep working. You'll get there. All right, let's look at this problem. It's a little bit different. Might help you with your homework. Gwen's goal is to sleep for at least 8 hours every night. The graph below represents that situation. Write an algebraic inequality that represents the number of hours h that Gwen sleeps per night. So we know we're using hours and 8. So all we're doing is we're writing an inequality that represents this. All right, so if our line is going to the right, that's all the values greater than 8, right? So the number of hours she sleeps has to be greater than 8. And since it's filled in, remember, to be filled in, that's where you can put the equal sign. So all this wording up here just means this, okay? We just want to write an algebraic inequality, and that's all that means, okay? Hint for your homework. All right, and I'm going kind of quick, so if you need to pause it, go ahead. Just a couple more examples. So for each of these, we need to write, solve, and graph an inequality and interpret it, okay? So Mrs. Smith decides to buy 3 sweaters and a pair of jeans. She has $120 in her wallet. The jeans cost $35. What is the highest possible price of the sweater if each sweater is the same price? Well, she's buying 3 sweaters. So if they cost $2, it's 3 times 2. If they cost $10, it's 3 times 10. If they're 100, it's 3 times 100. So I'm going to take 3 times the price of the sweaters, and I'll represent that with S. She also is buying a pair of jeans. So I'm going to add the $35 on for a pair of jeans. She has $120. We're not worried about tax right now, right? But if this is what she has in her wallet, can she go over that? Can she go less than that? So this has to be later, or less than. Can it be equal to? Sure, she can spend all her money. Okay, again, not worried about tax. All right, so now solve it. And we're going to do the same thing again. We're solving for our S, that's our unknown price. So I'm going to get rid of the 35 by combining it with the negative 35, or think of it as subtracting 35. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. I bring down my 3 times S. I double check to make sure those cancel and give me 0. I bring down my less than or equal to, and then I just compute 120 minus 35, which is 85. Okay, I've solved for my S term. Now I solve for S. This is 3 times S. I undo multiplying with dividing. I always divide by whatever the coefficient is. That's 3. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1S. 85 divided by 3 ends up being 28.3333. Okay? Now, yes or no question. Did I multiply or divide by a negative number? No. If I answer no to that question, we preserve the sign. That being said, this really doesn't work in terms of money, right? So we could say, this goes back to what we did before, okay? Money goes into the 100 spot, right? So this is $28. And can I say 33 cents? Is it going to be 34 cents? Well, remember, 34 cents is going to bump this up to over 120. And it just, trust me for now, but you could put it into a calculator like we did in the last problem. So I'm going to leave this as $28.33. So what we can say here, as I interpret, the highest possible price of this sweater is $28.33. Okay? Now graphing, we're just going to do a little bit of approximation here, and that's okay. Because, again, we're not running to a whole number here because money we can take to 33 cents, right? So let's say this is $28. This is $28.50. And this is $29. This is not the only way to do this. This is the way I'm choosing to do it. Because $28.33, it's going to come like a little more than halfway, right? Ooh, I shouldn't do it like that. Sorry. Patience. I should have patience, right? So it's going to be right here, let's say. Okay? $28.33. I'm going to put a circle there. Open or closed? Well, if it can be equal to it, I fill it in. And we're talking about all the values less than that. Less than $28.33. That goes to the left. Okay? So again, if you're struggling at all with graphing, we had learned about graphing in a previous grade, just come see me and I'll help you out with that. One more, okay? Let's try to do this quick. because I know. The members of the select chorus agree to buy at least 250 tickets for an outside concert. They buy 20 fewer lawn tickets than balcony tickets. So I'm going to say our balcony tickets, this should look familiar, we're going to represent that with B. So our lawn tickets are going to be 20 less. So if they buy 50 balcony, 50 minus 20. If they buy 100 balcony, 100 minus 20. So we're going to take whatever the balcony tickets are and minus 20. They want to know the least number of tickets. So the number of balcony tickets plus the number of lawn tickets. Balcony, lawn. And they want to buy at least 250, right? So if that's the least, we can go above it. Can we be equal to it? Yeah, because that's the least we can do. Now, simplify and solve. 1b plus 1b is 2b's, minus 20 is greater than or equal to 250. Now we're solving for b, so I'm going to solve for my b term. I have to undo this minus 20. I undo it by adding 20. Minus 20 plus 20 is 0. Whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. We have 2 times b. This cancels, is greater than or equal to 270. This is 2 times b. We undo that by dividing, and we end up with b and 135. Okay? So, yes or no question. Did I multiply or divide by a negative number? No? Bring our sign right down. Okay? We're just going to, I think you get the interpreting part, I hope. So balcony tickets, they have to buy at least 135, right? Number of tickets has to be greater than or equal to 135. To graph it real quick here. Thanks, guys, for your patience. Hopefully this helps you with your homework. Here, 130, 135, 140, 145. You can see I've used different scales. There's nothing wrong with that. Circle on the number, open or closed. Since it can be equal to, we fill it in. And we're talking about all the values greater than 135. That's these over here. So we draw an arrow. Okay? So keep in mind, we just keep building on to what we've been doing. We solve inequalities almost exactly like we solve equations. And graphing, we've learned how to do that before. We're just bringing that into play now.